Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. Let's welcome in. He's here on behalf of Signal Relief. But, of course, when you walk around this place and you authored one of the great runs in Super Bowl history, as well as, to those of us who remember what preceded Baltimore, which was like my favorite offense to watch in my lifetime, was probably the Vikings team before he left for the Ravens, is Brian Billick. He, of course, is the coach. He's joined us all year long. He joins us on the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio.
Thank you for that. That was nice.
So when you walk around, okay, and you think, like, it was 24 years ago.
I know. You look back. I was just on with Solomon Wilcox. I've known Solomon for 50 years.
Yeah.
So if you know somebody 50 years, that's old. It is. It's great. It's great to be back in this environment because it does remind you of the energy and everything that goes on in the Super Bowl. But 25 years ago, that was a special time.
Okay, so this is interesting because you were hired. You're an offensive wizard, okay? That team was known for their defense. But there's this perception out there now, and you can tell me if it's accurate or not accurate because you know way more about the league than I do, that you got to hire an offensive guy. Okay? You got to have a young quarterback, offensive guy, offensive gurus win. And, look, Andy Reid, obviously, great offensive background. Then you look at the other side, Kyle, great offensive background. But we've seen plenty of defensive coaches. Dan Quinn, of course, got a team here. They had a 28-3 lead. Now he's with Washington. When you take over as head coach and your specialty is offense, how much of your time actually do you get to dedicate to what you're specializing in, and how much has to be dedicated to everything else?
Well, all of the above. You have to learn very quickly, you become a head coach, that you're the head coach. And it is now. We're in a time, it's a general manager's league right now. So they're hiring these young offensive coaches, basically as coordinators.
To kind of, they can control them a little bit as
correct.
GMs. Yeah.
And that's not that's a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. It's just, you're going to, I always say if you have lunch with Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan, you're a head coaching candidate, okay? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But there are a lot of good young defensive coaches out there as well. And that's where organizations have to decide. Do I want to hire a head coach, truly a head coach, like Washington has done, or do I want to hire one of these young guns who's going to do that, and then we'll wrap around him the right defensive coordinator and the right structure to do those other things. But we're really hiring him to be that brilliant strategic play caller, okay? And whether that's valid or not, obviously there's success doing it both ways. That is where we are right now, and that's the formula that a lot of people are going to rely on. Okay,
you've lived so many different lives as a coach. Let me call on one that first, when you won the Super Bowl, you had a guy who was seen as like the game manager, right? And all candid, like we worked together at ESPN. We're really good friends. He's a coach now at UAB. But the idea of having a guy, and he obviously had a lot of talent, otherwise he wouldn't have been a top 5 pick in Tampa back in the day. But what is your approach like when you have a loaded team, right? And you just don't lose me the game.
Right.
But he still has to make plays. Like, what's that like in relationship coach to player?
That's a fine line to walk. And if that's the way you're going to win, you have to remember 25 years ago when we won ours, then Tampa and New England. That was won with defensive teams and quarterbacks, Trent Dilfer, Brad Johnson, excellent, solid quarterback, and then a young Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, who was managing the game
at
the time.
Right, at that time. There's not the Tom Brady that we know as the GOAT. Because we were in a void of the great quarter. We were coming out of the Marino, Elway, Montana years. We had not yet come into the Brady, the Breezes.
And Elway, too.
Elway,
Elway had just ended, too.
Right. So there was, and so you could win with that manager. In today's game, quarterback plays too dynamic. You got to have that guy. Doesn't have to be a Hall of Famer, but to win with that type of profile. But the key is, and that's why Trent Dilfer was the perfect quarterback for us, because Trent understood that, okay, this is maybe the greatest single-season defense in the history of the game. We can run the ball. We were second in the league in rushing. If I don't turn it over and can make just a couple key plays, we win 17-10, 21-10, 14-9, that type of thing. And Trent bought into it, and he did it. And that's the reason we were able to win. And he did it at a time because Trent was at a point in his career where he really needed to do more to get that next contract, and so Trent was the perfect quarterback for us in that situation. I always tell you, there's always two kind of people in this world: the people that go, "I can't believe Brian Billick won a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer," and the kind of people that go, "I can't believe Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl with Brian Billick coaching." So it's either way.
That roster if I remember it correctly, was as good as any roster there may be in sport. Like, for people who forget, like, you did have Shannon Sharp, right? You did have Jamal Lewis at his peak, who was a great running back. And then you go to the defensive side, and you just had like an all-star team.
Well, Jonathan Ogden
left tackle.
But then you're right. We had studs and great players at every level.
So what is that like to manage? And some of that you had some experience when you're in Minnesota, because you had superstars there, but maybe not the same kind of depth of it. And look, part of it is, and I think some of it was you allowed it, some of it was who they were as people. There's a lot of ego and bravado in that Ravens locker room. How'd you manage that?
We had to embrace that.
How?
Basically by letting them be who they are. I made it real clear to those guys coming in. And they had to get used to it, to trust me, that, look, if you act like men, I'm going to treat you like men. If you act like kids, I'm going to treat you like kids. We had no bed check, no curfew all year long. We got to the Super Bowl, had no bed check or curfew. People thought, the Billick's lost it. They're going to just get annihilated. That's what my team could do. They bought into that because you gave them the authority, the Ray Lewises, the Rod Woodsons, the Shannon Sharps, that the other guys were going to follow along.
Just think all those guys
on
one
my God.
team.
I could, you put Shannon and I in a room, we'll suck the oxygen out of a room in a New York second. So there were a lot of personalities, but they were professionals. And they were hardworking, and they understood what we needed. Tony Saragusa was really, along with Ray, of course, was really one of the incredible leaders on the team, because Tony was a pain in the ass to coach, because he burned it at both ends, and he's going to test you. But Tony, when it was time to work, you worked.
He was your Draymond.
Yeah, exactly.
He was
right.
your Draymond.
He and the other guys saw it. Okay, if Tony, who's always pushing and talking to this, that, and the other, and doing, but okay, it's time to work, guys. They fell in line. They knew this was time to work. This is time to play. And that was the hallmark of that team.
Okay. Then you had Kyle Bowler. Yeah. And that had limited success, but didn't work. You look at how San Francisco's using Brock Purdy. Yeah. And obviously, again, kind of like your 2000 team, surrounded by like an all-star cast. And he hasn't played well now, like probably 5 of the 8 quarters in the playoffs. But in the 2 fourth quarters, he's played really well.
Correct. And that's the key. I mean, he's not going to lose that game manager, system quarterback moniker for a lot of reasons. One, he's Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick of the draft. He's in a system that's very well defined, and they use him brilliantly. I love Brock Purdy, and I love what he's done. And he has delivered. Like you said, that's the key. The game manager role is not one you really want laid on you, because that says that. But if the game falls to you and you got to throw it 45 times, you can't win. Brock Purdy can win. And the fact that he's got talent around him. Troy Aikman is one of the great game managers of all time in the Hall of Fame. And I say that respectfully. Yeah. Great system, a lot of talent around him. Oh, my gosh. And knew how to win with that.
Sure.
And certainly capable of doing more. You look at his numbers, and it's a little different compared to some of the other numbers of guys. But a worthy Hall of Famer. So Brock Purdy, I don't know if he'll ever get rid of that call. He's never going to be lumped in with the Patrick Mahomes that are so unique and special. But he is good enough, and he's done it at the critical times.
Let me ask you about Pat Mahomes, because this is different, right? Before, he would have to make plays, and he brought him from behind. This year, he's kind of managed the game some.
Correct, because they got the running game.
Right, they're at Baltimore. They didn't score a point in the second half. Right. Very, very conservative play calling, even like, hey, we're good.
Right.
Our defense, what does it signify to you that you have a guy who has otherworldly talent? We've seen him carry a team with his arm, now kind of dial it back and make the smart play instead of the big play at times.
And that's what makes him a great quarterback, is he doesn't get caught up with the other stuff and recognizes, like I was saying about Trent, this is what it takes for us to win. And as I size up this game, it really tells you the greatness of Patrick Mahomes, because that is the answer. You can make, okay, they got McCaffrey and they're going to run and physical, make it tough against it. They got Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
But then they can play action and they're going to go to Deebo Samuel and they're going to Kittle. They got Patrick Mahomes. Well, they can put a 4-man rush in that defense. They got Patrick Mahomes. He's whatever legitimate observation you can make about San Francisco and why they're going to win the game, it's the comeback is they got Patrick Mahomes.
Signal Relief, you've joined us all year. And
the real deal. This the more I'm around this product, this is really something special. This is, and this is not a TENS unit. This is not a patch. Nothing you put in your body. thing I love about this thing, one, it's reusable, very affordable. Two, you put it where you need it.
Okay, so it's like, and for people who are on radio, whatever, so it's almost like a triangular shape, but rounded at the edges. I don't even know what you call that
it's
shape.
It's a military grade. It basically was built to enhance antenna signals and dealing with antenna signals. Well, pain is nothing more than an electrical signal from the point of impact to your brain.
Sure.
We say put this between your brain and the pain. It blocks that signal. So, and here's the important part, so that you can work past the prohibitive pain, the muscle, joints and injuries and arthritis, they love inactivity. If you can work past that pain with your joints and muscles, that's where the real rehab comes from. That's what signal relief does. You put it where you need it. I'm addicted to golf. 18 holes of golf, it goes on my lower back. If I get out of the pool,
I thought it was supposed to go between the pain and your brain. So shouldn't it go in your upper back?
It goes up. I go on my low, because where I feel it is my lower back.
Right,
I put it just above that. When I get out of the pool,
in between the pain, I just want to make sure it was in between the pain and the brain. I
get out of the pool. It's my shoulder, my upper back. So and that's part of it.
How does it stay on?
It's got an adhesive. That's why it's reusable for a year. You get the peel on adhesive. You put it there. You literally put it where you want. It peels off. Then you can peel that, put the next adhesive.
And it works?
I tell you what, it's the real deal. People need to find it. Signalrelief.com, promo code COACH, you get 20% off.
Coach, congrats. You should always, every time you're here, you should do that victory lap, because it was one of the greatest football teams ever assembled. But there's been other great teams that haven't won this game, and you guys won it in unique style.
Great
Thanks so
fun.
much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate you.